journalist reporting for RT has been released by the Ukrainian authorities. He spent almost 36 hours in custody, while all our attempts to contact him were being bounced between Kiev's various administrative offices. The National Guard arrested Graham in the east of the country before moving him to the capital in what he described as hostage-like conditions.
Around midday, we're leaving Mariupol, and then we're approaching the checkpoint, the block post. I got out and started filming, and then suddenly, the soldiers were sort of over, and they were interrogating and suddenly asking quite a lot of questions, looking through the car in more depth and more detail than they'd done before, and they found a bulletproof vest that I've been given as the line of duty here, serving in a conflict situation here. And then that seemed to kind of escalate things, the bulletproof vest, and then they started asking me who I work with, and I explained it was RT, obviously a Russian canal. And then that seemed to sort of trigger something, and the next we were asked to pull the car over by the side of the road, and we were all decamped and taken out into these two porta cabins which form this block post. Calls were made to get this senior officer from the SBU, which is a branch of the Ukrainian security services, to come. And then at that point we were put with the soldiers basically, so we were guarded, had to go to the toilet. At gunpoint, more figures came, sort of military figures, and I was taken off, not in handcuffs, but I was taken off under gunpoint at that point at 9 o'clock. And I was told that we were going to Zaporozhye. So first of all, we went to a local police station, and then after that we decamped into a car where I was given a sort of armed guard, a guy that had an automatic rifle. It was night, we were passing through checkpoints, and every time we did, the guy would have his gun across my leg, so there was no question of my sort of status at that point of being in detention. Then we arrived in Zaporozhye at an army barracks, an army base, and I was put in a billet there, told to get my head down, get to sleep. The guy made it clear, my guard, that if I were to make any move, make any break, then his orders were to use whatever force needed to basically detain me. So then it was a case of they handcuffed me, so they put my hands behind my back and then put a black sackcloth over my head, and then was taken in into the centre of Kiev, and there was a meeting then with officials, with my embassy, with the British embassy, with officials here, and one of whom I'd met a month before in Kramatorsk at the airfield and who'd recognised me. And I have to say that meeting at the end orientated towards my release, which came late in this evening now of the 21st of May, but I'm still waiting, hopefully tomorrow, to get all my possessions back.
So while Graham Phillips has now walked free, the two Russian journalists detained last Sunday haven't been so lucky. RT's Irina Galushko has the latest on their plight.
The journalists have been in detention for 5 days. They have been arrested on Sunday, and at this point, the conditions in which they're being held and their whereabouts are still unknown. The OSCE representatives have been refused access to them at this point twice already. Journalists are being accused by Kiev of smuggling arms into southeastern Ukraine, which is where they were detained on Sunday, and also for aiding and abetting anti-government troops in the area, which Kiev calls terrorists. Of course, this stance on the issue has been dismissed as ridiculous by Life News Channel and by Russian officials.
Russia says it's planning to bring up the violation of press rights in Ukraine at today's meeting of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Delegations from several other countries are expected to join, and we spoke to Rachel Denber, who is with Human Rights Watch here in Moscow, and she says the Ukrainian authorities are remaining tight-lipped.
We have not heard any response from Kiev. I spent most of the day today trying to call the SBU to get confirmation about their status, their whereabouts, and their legal status. I was not able to get through to the SBU. Anytime that journalists are detained or are in custody and there's no information, no specific official information about their whereabouts, we're worried about their treatment, we're worried about their status. There are specific, concrete legal accusations against them. Let those charges be known. But meanwhile, they should be released pending any investigation, if there indeed needs to be an investigation.
The ordeal of the journalists has now been noted by a number of European organizations. We got a response from the Council of Europe Commissioner for Human Rights on the matter. He said what's going on is a violation of a fundamental human right and must be stopped immediately. Even the US State Department, which was quick to back the accusations by Kiev that the reporters were aiding terrorists, has softened its stance somewhat.
We would condemn any unlawful detention of journalists and call on all sides to allow legitimate journalists to conduct their work free from interference. We would call on Ukrainian authorities to investigate these incidents, to release these people if they're legitimate journalists and not involved in illegal activities.
Wave of support for the two journalists that started on social media is rapidly spreading across the world. Celebrities are joining the move, and here's American actress Mila Jovovich holding up its universal message. It quickly became one of the top Twitter trends in Russia, Ukraine and the West, with numerous users posting photos of themselves with the same hashtag, Save Our Guys. The cameraman of RT's video agency Rapli, who was injured whilst working in Ukraine, is expected to be released shortly from hospital. He was shot in the stomach while filming in Mariupol on the 9th of May. And this day was marked by a strong army crackdown on anti-government activists. Among them were also police that refused to obey Kiev's orders. Up to 20 people were killed in Mariupol and many others injured. The cameraman says he was targeted despite showing his press identity card, and we spoke to our colleague about his ordeal.
I was filming, first on the city's main streets and then near a hotel. That's where I was wounded. There was no sign of danger because two people walked past me on the street and nobody shot at them. I think my red first aid kit and the blue press vest is what attracted attention. When I was shot, I felt like I was hit with a hammer and I fell down immediately. I crawled away from danger for a couple of meters. I had just opened up my first aid kit when people rushed to my help. A Ukrainian traffic police officer and some other man, I think he was a car driver, carried me out of the line of fire. The police officer was helping me out on the way to hospital, making sure I stayed conscious.
Reports are coming in about fierce fighting going on right now in several locations in eastern Ukraine. As you can see from the pictures here, army helicopters have been deployed there. And in the Donetsk region, the battle raging following an attack by anti-government forces on an army roadblock. And there are conflicting reports at the moment of casualties on both sides. The National Guard say they've lost at least 8 people. Up to 31 are said to have been taken to hospital. Businesses are closed in towns near the region's center, and residents are staying at home there. And in neighboring Lugansk region, activists say unknown attackers blew up a bridge in the area and shot at buses carrying civilians there. We managed to contact a local resident who told us there's a near panic situation in the area there.
There's fighting in villages all around the city. People are hastily picking up their children from schools and kindergartens. We don't know how many people have been killed or injured because we can't reach anyone on the phone.
And there are also reports about battles raging in Slavyansk. Locals are claiming there have been civilian casualties, while a number of buildings in the city have been destroyed in the overnight shelling. People are said to have found unexploded shells in their own backyards. Don't forget to check the Twitter feeds of our reporters working in Ukraine. Irina Galushko, Graham Phillips and Paula Slier are keeping abreast of the events and posting their findings online. Follow them to remain up to date.